Hello, everyone. Welcome to another weekly show, a Meaghan Chitwood Live. This week, we have Mitch Jones with Mr. Bug's Pest Patrol. It's a locally owned and operated company out of Birmingham, the Birmingham area, doing pest control. It's a 40-year-old family business, and what is really important to them is they continue to have that family feel. So I can't wait for you to hear from Mitch Jones with Mr. Bugs. So let's go ahead and get started. So welcome to our show. As you know, you can see our show live on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. And you can also catch the recording on Instagram as well as YouTube, also in. So please go ahead and click subscribe to do that. And now on to Mitch, the most important person on the call today. Mitch, thank you so much for joining me.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we're going to start off with a funny story because you have a very interesting B&I story that we're going to actually start out with, because I just think that this is going to be absolutely fabulous and a great foundation for us to start with. So tell us about your first experience with B&I.
Yeah. So again, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So it was probably 2007, 2008, somewhere in there. I got a call from somebody that I knew through a business connection and invited me to come to a networking group that was starting, that was meeting in the area kind of where our business is at. And it was a startup group. So they weren't officially a group, but it was kind of explained to me that it's just networking. And I didn't get a whole lot of information other than that. And I'd never heard of B&I before that. So I go to the meeting immediately. There was a little bit of like kind of just an odd vibe with the group. You know, it was just, I don't know how to explain it. It just was one of those things where it was just always a little bit uncomfortable and kind of tense and stiff, I guess. But at one point, they started talking about these meetings that you do outside of the meeting when they started to explain the concept of B&I. But you would have dance parties with other members. And of course, now I'm thinking, all right, what have I gotten myself into?
Okay, so wait a second. So in my defense, okay, so this was on my watch, right? This is my 17th, I just celebrated 17 years. It's dance card, not dance party. They probably said dance party, but it was supposed to be dance card, but nonetheless, still equally as, yeah.
Well, the way I remember it was that you had a dance party, which was the one-to-one, but then you filled out a dance card to show, hey, this was my dance card, and I had a dance party with somebody. Now I may have remembered that wrong. All I know is that one I'm thinking, am I supposed to slow dance with this person?
Well, the logic makes sense, right? A dance party, but then you fill out your dance anyway. Sure. A little bit lost in translation.
I think I was already teetering on the fence, of course, and then when that happened, I kind of panicked a little bit, and so I was like, I don't think this is for me. I'm not a very good dancer, period. So now I've got to dance with people and then somehow network, So I started envisioning, when you were like in middle school and you would go to we called them galas, and you would put your hands just like here and you stand 10 feet or 2 feet apart. You know what I mean? I'm envisioning us doing that, and then we're talking about our business or something. So I panicked and I ran.
That is so really important, right? How you communicate something. Because if you don't communicate and think about all the people in the room as you're communicating, it could go sideways very, very quickly. And that went super sideways. All right. So you gave us a second chance. Tell us a little bit about that, so I can redeem myself at least.
Yeah, sure. So then in 2010, I get a call from another person through business. It was a friend of a realtor, and they were meeting. It was a B&I group. And I actually said, well, I don't know about this B&I thing. I've kind of experienced this. Maybe not for me. But the individual who had invited me, I knew well, and he talked about it. So I said, well, give it another shot. And when I got to the meeting, again, it was a startup chapter at the point, but they had, I think we had 14 or 15 people at that point trying to get this group off the ground. But it was just, the atmosphere was different. The mentality of the people in the group were different. You could tell everybody was business focused. And I looked at it like, man, this is really the potential for some great opportunity for our business. So at that point, it was night and day experience. And I think it had something to do with not just the dance card stuff, of course, but I think the group of people and the core group of people who were like-minded trying to get that going. And so anyways, I decided to jump on board at that point, and that was 11 years ago. Here I am.
Only 11 years. I just recently again did the math, right? Like 17 years. Wow. Right? 11 years. Wow.
Looks up on you. I know.
Yeah. And then I will say this, just a shout out. Our longest standing member, 1997 was when he joined.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Is it in this state?
No, in our region. Yeah, in the trusted chapter.
Wow.
Yeah, 1997. Okay. I was like,
wow.
Yeah, wow. So anyway, so thank you for being with us for 11 years for sure. So the punchline of this story, the reason why I wanted Mitch to share this was because not all chapters feel the same. And I was sharing with him earlier, you can walk into a room and everybody's wearing a suit and you go, whoa, I don't belong here. You can walk into another room and everybody's much more casual and you say, oh, I don't belong here. They're all different. So just when you've seen one BNI meeting, some like to think you've seen it all. You haven't. You've seen exactly one BNI meeting. So anyway, that's the punchline of our story on that.
Yeah, no, and it's a good point too, because we've had individuals who were applying for a seat, but they're not real sure. And I'll say, go check out other chapters. You know what I mean? There's no reason that you have to join this one. It may be good for you. It may not be. There may be a better fit. So I encourage people when they're on the fence to go check it out and see what they think.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So, okay, let's talk about Mr. Bugs. So pest control, how did you get into the pest control business? Tell us a little bit about your personal story.
Oh gosh, how long is your show? No, it's a family business. So my wife, it's her family, and we started back in high school. We're actually high school sweethearts. So we've been together forever. Been together longer than we haven't been together. So after college and throughout college, I started working here just kind of as a part-time filler and technician, kind of learning the different aspects of the business. So I had no intention of going into this industry, but when it came time to get a real job, I had this opportunity, and it led me down different paths, some sales, some management, and so it's just been a great company to work with. And so that's kind of how I got into it, and I've just stuck with it since, really. Yeah.
So this is a really different feel, right? Because it is a family-owned business. It is local to Birmingham. And that does really make the company pretty special in terms of how they value relationships, right?
Yeah, we do. I mean, we like to, everybody in the pest control industry has got the same products. We use the same distributors, but it's how do you differentiate yourself? And of course, everybody wants to say customer service, which is true. But, we try to treat our employees like family. Some guys have been here for 15 and 20 years, and we're not trying to get rid of them. We always tell people when they come if we're hiring, which is not all that often, although now that we're growing, which is a good thing, we are looking to hire at times. But typically we're saying we're not looking for a fill-in. We're looking for a permanent employee. We're looking for somebody to make a career out of it. So we are local to Birmingham, but actually over the past few years, with the help of BNI, we've been expanding across the state, actually. So still a family-owned local business, but trying to expand that footprint. But we do still want to keep that family-oriented feel, and our owner feels that way too. He wants to treat the customers like you would treat your own family. And I think if you take that approach to going about your job, then you'd be a lot more successful.
Well, it is, and it's really interesting because on the show, I interview people who've been in BNI for a long time, 11 years, right? And so far, the theme has been the relationship with the customer, which I find interesting. Because when I think about pest control, I don't go like, I'm going to choose a company based on the relationship, right? So how is that how have your customers felt about that approach?
That's a great question. Okay. No, I'm kidding. The thing is with the customer and pest control, and I think this is with any service industry, but especially in a business where you're doing recurring visits or repeat visits, they develop a level of comfort with the individual that they're letting into their home, because it's just weird to let anybody that you don't know into your home. So what's become of our company, and we like to do that, is they don't call and say, I'm using Mr. Bugs. It's you got to call Chad, or you got to call Chris, or you got to call Jimmy. He's my bug guy. He's my bug man. You got to call Ray. And they know these guys by their first name, and they know their family, and then vice versa. So it becomes like a relationship that you develop, and you've got this comfort level where I know I can call my guy and he's going to take care of me. Now he works with Mr. Bugs and he's affiliated with us, of course, but he's my guy. And so that's kind of how that's worked. And so I think that's a good thing. We encourage our guys to have that personal relationship. Give them your cell phone number. You give them your work phone number. Tell them to call you directly instead of going through the office. And the people like that. And so that seemed to work for us.
Well, so a couple things, like that's a real abundance mindset, right? Because some companies would say, I wouldn't want that level of relationship because the person could go somewhere else, right? But that's the value that they get, is that they have their bug guy, right? Their bug guy that is their actual person, and then that goes to your longevity with your employees as well, kind of bringing that all together, which is. And I really hadn't thought about retention, because in B&I we talk a lot about retention. I would rather somebody be in B&I for 11 years than come in, try it out, and then ultimately leave. And retention is just as important for your company as well.
Yeah, and it can have a negative aspect if you were having a lot of turnover and a different face was showing up each time. So sometimes it's unavoidable, but we do try to do that. And so I think it is something that could have it could have some negativity behind it, but we try to take it the other way, and it's worked well for us.
I was going to say the upside of it. I think the upside of it is much more valuable than any doubt. Like if you were a balancing act, the upside of that is huge. Is absolutely huge, and you've created a great culture within your organization as well. So amazing.
Yeah, we think so.
Yeah. So so outside of the relationship, is there anything else that really sets you apart that you found as you've had people give you feedback, whether it's in B&I or it is other customers?
I think communication too. We talk about that in B&I, for example, when you get a referral and being communicative with that referral. But you guys are all consumers of some sort of service industry, whether it's the cable company or whether it's whoever you've got that's going to do some work, and they'll say, I'll be there on Friday between 8 and 2 or whatever. It's like, who has time to wait for that? So we try to be very cognizant of people's time and respectful. We respect your time just as much as we appreciate the business. So we want to try to narrow down the time as best we can. Want to be communicative with you. So we're emailing or texting, or if let's just say we get held up at a stop or there's a train stuck on the tracks or whatever the case is, just pick up the phone and call the person and just talk to them. We've all been sitting there at your house wondering, when is this person going to show up? They gave me a 4-hour window or worse, an 8-hour window. And it's, we understand the frustrations with that. So we try to be respectful of that. And we try to, I think, again, if you can communicate with your customer and stay in front of that, then they appreciate that you respect their time. And I think that goes a long way too.
It is. And I think that's a lost, I feel like we're kind of losing that. That's kind of this moment in time of, of thinking about an empathy, right? Empathy towards what is this other person probably dealing with? Well, they're running home from work and they're trying to do this and they're dealing with the kids and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. Anytime I have a negative personal experience with anything that I'm dealing with at my home, I always try to take it back to our guys and say, just put yourself in the customer's position. I know you get busy and I know it gets hot out there because we're in the pest control and termite control industry. So it's not cold in Alabama a whole lot, especially in the summer. So it can be grueling work. And so sometimes it is easy to get frustrated, but you got to remember this customer though that's who's paying our bills basically. And we need to respect that and be appreciative of that, but just put yourself in their time, in their mindset. If you're sitting at home waiting on this guy to show up, how would you feel? And just remember that. And then we also have our guys. I think this is something we also try to do is each individual has their own route. So they're responsible for X amount of people per month or whatever the case is. Treat it like your own little small business. How would you go about your business? And if you do that, I think you just put a lot more pride into your work, which our guys do a great job of. And so that has also helped with us being successful. And retention.
Yeah, love that. So who are people who tend to be the best kind of referral sources for you in the pest control industry?
Yeah, so pest control and of course termite control is the other part of our business that's big. So specifically with B&I, I call it kind of like our main three. Realtors are great because they're constantly dealing with the transaction and they'll give us recurring business and multiple streams of referrals. Home builders are great because it's new construction. We can get in at the ground level. We can get a termite contract on a home and then try to solicit later to that individual about pest control or mosquito control or other services we offer. And then property management companies are great for us because you got multiple properties that are being managed, and we can generally handle a lot of that for those companies. So those three are really the big ones that we like to go look for, especially in B&I, because again, it's not just one referral. It's kind of that, you've heard the old golden egg versus golden goose scenario. And so that really, those three for us can be that.
And in Alabama, most of the time, you end up with needing a pest control to be a part of that part of any closing ultimately.
Right.
Yeah. So talk a little bit about that and what the requirements are.
Yeah, sure. So it's a termite contract is something that's very common in our state, and that's because termites are very prevalent. Now, the misconception is that it's a requirement that you have to have a termite contract on your house, and it's not the case as far as a state regulation goes. What happens though is in any real estate transaction, either the lender that's lending to the borrower or the borrower or the buyer, may say, I'm not buying this house without a contract, or the lender may say, I'm not giving you the money without a termite contract on it. So at that point, it almost becomes a requirement. So it seems to be written into just about every real estate contract we run across these days. So while it's not a state requirement, it ends up becoming a requirement in order to buy or sell the home. So it's certainly something that we can provide. And then one thing that when I'm dealing with realtors that I'll say a lot is, again, we all kind of have similar pricing, but typically in a real estate transaction, I'm up against a closing date and a deadline, and I need this done in yesterday. And we understand that. And so while sometimes it can be a challenge when you get a call, hey, it's Thursday and I'm closing Friday or whatever the case is, we understand that it happens. And so we try to drop what we're doing and make that a top priority. And a lot of the realtors who continue to come back appreciate that level of service, because some companies just can't quite make that work for them. And we try to take that into consideration for sure.
I put together this whole, here's a real estate transaction using B&I terms. Who are all the people who you need to get that closed? And pest control should be a standard within that, just in case, right? Because I always say, if I was a real estate agent, I would love having a weekly meeting with everyone it would take to close on a home. And because then I know Tuesday morning at 7:00, I'm going to see everybody. So during open networking, I can make sure everybody's ready to go and I can communicate. Right. Maybe I can help you not have a last minute Tuesday, I need it by tomorrow kind of scenario too.
Exactly.
It becomes kind of easier that way.
Most of the realtors we use are great. They're very organized and they have exactly what you're talking about. They kind of have like a little chart that shows this is when I need to call this individual. What typically will happen is the buyer's agent thought so-and-so was going to order it, and the listing agent thought somebody else. So it's just, and again, there's a lot going on in the house when there's a real estate transaction. So it just happens. It's inevitable, and it's not really anybody's fault. It's just sort of how that works. But again, when it does happen, we've got to take care of that for them, and we understand that. And so again, we'll sort of drop what we're doing. It gets bumped up to the top of the priority. And they're very appreciative, or at least they seem to be, because they keep coming back. So,
and so real estate agents, it is important to have a good relationship, right, with your pest control person, because you can't make a whole lot. I mean, I think of relationships like bank accounts, right? I make a lot of deposits, and then every once in a while I can make a withdrawal, which will be, I need this by tomorrow. I'm so sorry. So having a relationship with a pest control company or termites who can provide that termite letter is really critical. Dig the well before you need the water.
And I think so too. And again, we're growing, so our business we like to still call it a small business. But if you call our office, you're going to get a person. It's not an answering service at the moment, and so that's good. But typically, they'll call or text me directly, or they'll go straight to their pest control guy, or their bug guy, or their termite guy. And it's just an easier way for them to get access to the people they need quickly. And then again, we try to turn that over as fast as we can.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. So I have to get to B&I because I love hearing the B&I part of the story. So what has been the value of B&I to you in your industry?
Gosh, that's a great question. With B&I, I would have to go back because I was in before the digital era. You know what I mean? We were tracking everything. And so I feel like I wish I could have gone back and made myself, hey, Mitch, make sure you write down every single thing that you did, because I tried to track it as best I could so that I could see the financial value of it. But the financial value is probably one that I couldn't really even equate at the moment, because it's just been so above and beyond what I would have hoped for when I got in. But, you learn how to network, you learn how to develop relationships, you learn how to ask the right questions so that you can get in the door. It's also helped me kind of, when you're doing sales, sometimes it gets a little bit nerve-wracking to go knock on that door, or maybe to make that phone call and ask the question you want to ask, but you're not real sure if it's an appropriate time to push that business. And so B&I has helped me come out of my shell when it comes to stuff like that. It's been great for networking and then developing relationships just across the community that you work within. And so it's been invaluable for us and for me personally. So it's one of those things that every time we hire somebody that's going to be in a sales type role or in a role where that could be valuable, I said, that's the first thing we got to do is we got to find you a chapter that makes sense.
So what I heard was it really kind of helped you develop as a skilled person in your industry as well
Absolutely.
as just the sales that come along. In adult learning, you really have to practice something to actually get good at it, right? So you have to practice you are forced, right, in a way, to practice your presentation, getting it into a 60-second pitch or a 45-second pitch,
Right.
and those kinds of things also. So
Absolutely.
practicing those relationship building skills.
Absolutely. I remember early on in the process, when you get into B&I, sort of sitting off on the sidelines. I didn't want to get too involved, just a little bit nervous, but I got tapped to be the education coordinator, kind of on somebody dropped out of the group or something happened, they changed jobs. And so I was immersed right into it immediately, but it was great for me personally because I would have to prepare for it, which I actually enjoyed that part of it because I was reading this book that I think it might have been an Ivan Meisner book, or maybe it was somebody, but it was 52 weeks.
Networking week. Yeah. I have it over there. I'm going to come up with a name here in a second. Go ahead.
I've got it actually in my closet here, but long story short, I used it. It was great because the stuff that I was actually reading so that I could then put out during the educational moment it was eye-opening for me from a networking perspective. And then, like, as you just said, putting that stuff into practice week after week after week only helped further build what I'm doing on a business level, forget B&I. So it was been very valuable for me from that aspect as well.
Yeah, in Huntsville, we just recently had a pretty large networking event. There was about 100 people. It wasn't a B&I event. And me and someone else, a business consultant who was in B&I, he said, like, just look around the room. He's like, you can spot the B&I members without even knowing who it is. Because they just got the skills. Hi, how you doing? And
Right.
Start that. And then one member comes up to me and he says, he was like, I'm so excited. And I'm expecting to hear, I got business. I got a visitor to, somebody's going to come visit our chapter. And he said, I just connected 2 people over there on the other side of the room, and they're going to start doing business together. So it was about just connecting 2 people, no value to him per se.
Right.
But it just is this, I guess, endorphin building thing also we get from just helping other people, right?
Right. 100%. I actually gave a referral recently to a lady in my group who we bounced back and forth, and it was a large one for her. And it was just a rewarding feeling that she was able, I didn't value anything from it, but I was so happy for her. But, she'll remember that, of course, as you know, and it will be reciprocated, and really probably already has in the past. But it's a great feeling when you make that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're just building an amazing community of people who ultimately want to help one another, and and it's a great place for somebody who has a giving orientation to come, and it just sort of feels like home when you
right
there too. Yeah,
I would agree for sure.
So, what do you like most about your particular chapter?
Excuse me. We have a great dynamic in our chapter. There's a lot of kind of camaraderie going back and forth, a little bit of banter. At one point, we had somebody say, maybe it's a little too much of that going on at times. But then as they join the group, they're like, as I realized, that's just the way that's the personality of your group. And so I love that about our group, is that we are very, very focused. We're not even to the fiscal year end right now. We've already closed $1.9 million so far on our group, which exceeded what we did last year as a whole. So even during the COVID year, we managed to have a great year, but we still have a good time with the group. We follow the structure and we stay within the B&I kind of the time frame, but we have a good camaraderie. We have a good group. We try to meet every other week to do a luncheon, whoever. It's just kind of a come and go as you can if you can get there. So I just love the dynamic in our group and the personalities that we've got, because it's just that, to me, keeps it from being so stiff. And I don't mean that's a bad thing. If there's some groups that are more about by the book, then that may work for them. But for us, it's just something and so for me, it's enjoyable to go to the meetings,
Your group does the best, and does the best of all of that, or one of the best of all of that, because it is a place you want to be, right? No one would walk away going like, "Oh, I've got to go back to that next week." It's like,
Right.
I can't wait for it, right? I can't wait for the next day. I can't wait for the next meeting. But and I shared this. My so far to date favorite BNI memory of the year was visiting your chapter Valentine's Day week. Love songs was the theme. You tossed out a quib, and Michael responds with, "Mitch, you say it best when you say nothing at all." And it was like, it was magic. It was the absolute best. And my cheeks were hurting from smiling so much. It was just absolutely fabulous.
He actually had a sub recently and had the sub read something that he had sent to him and tossed in another little jab, and it was perfectly timed. And I texted him while he was on vacation. I said, "I hope this wakes you up while you're on vacation." But that was great, by the way. So well played.
Absolutely. No, and it's just that relationship, and it's such a positive place to be, and all those kinds of things. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So anything else? Okay, so my last question, and then you can wrap it up with anything you would like. If a pest control company was thinking about joining BNI in another area, what would you say to them?
Well, first you said another area, so that was great. I appreciate that. No, I mean, I would say, I don't know why you wouldn't join, quite frankly. I mean, if you can get into a group where there's people in your industry that you need to meet, it's an unlimited supply of opportunity, if I could say it that way. I just feel like, and again, we mentioned Huntsville where you're at. We've expanded recently to that area, and we've got an individual who is going to join a group, possibly two. And I just said, I don't know why you wouldn't, because not only are you going to look at potentially getting referrals and business down the road, but you're going to immerse yourself into that community, and you're going to get to know people, and you're going to get to also have a sales staff for you working on your behalf. So once you develop that relationship and establish that trustworthiness and credibility, they're going to start pushing your name and your product out there for us. So for me, if I were talking to a pest control company and they could afford it and they could afford the time, I'd say you'd be a fool not to get in, because to me, it's just so much opportunity there for you.
And especially for a company like yours, because you think about the normal buying habit. If I go, "Oh my gosh, we have ants," what do I usually do? A Google search, right?
Sure.
Or a Facebook, "Hey, does anybody know of anyone?" So it's not even it's not a threshold of trust like a financial advisor. I'm going to hand you $100,000. So I think it could even be immediate, like week 1, week 2, because my buying habit is to Google somebody I don't even know, much less the person I'm going to be developing a relationship with.
Absolutely. And that's what I tell them too, because there's a lot of great companies out there, and every one of us tries all the bigger companies and all that are nationwide or over the Southeast, do a great job. But a lot of times people like just having that individual, call this guy, call that guy, which is what's great about being in any industry. So I would certainly recommend it if they've got the opportunity to join, that they should look into it.
And anything else you feel like everybody needs to know about you, Mr. Bugs, or anything else that we have not covered yet?
No, I mean, sorry, I was spinning there. As far as the company goes, I mean, we appreciate the opportunity. BNI has been great for us, and then our customers that are out there. We appreciate your business, and have for 40 plus years. So that's about it, really.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being a part of this with me. This I think is one of the best parts of my week, getting to hear one more story and dig in. So thank you, and thank you for sharing with everyone as well. Really appreciate having you.
Yeah, all right. Appreciate you having me.
You're so welcome. So next week we have the most riveting guest possible. It's just me. So next week it is just me. I will be on the July 2nd. We will be talking all things BNI that I have learned over the last month that I think others should consider as well. So that will be our next week's show. I will be fairly solo. So until then, I hope you have a fabulous week, and I can't wait to see you again next week on our next show. Thanks so much.